Are you interested in shifting your current reality? Then stay tuned. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Evolving Consciousness. I'm your host Purushottam, and in today's video, we are going to talk about what are the most practical ways to shift our reality. Now, I'm not going to promise miracles, but essentially, I'm going to give you the most pragmatic way which I have learned to shift reality. Now, I have put this particular way or approach to shift reality in terms of an acronym. The word shift, every letter in this word shift is going to give us a particular concept, a particular idea for us to sort of resonate with and sort of build some understanding towards this concept of shifting our reality. Now, to put it very simply, what is reality? If I might ask you to define reality, you probably might thinking what obnoxious or stupid question to ask. Reality is that which is real, that which is evident to your eyes. But what if I tell you that your reality is heavily created by the economy between your two ears? Yes, you heard that right. When we say that reality is created by the way we think, right? The way we perceive reality is heavily creating our reality. Now, a person might be in the most detrimental situations but still might be experiencing the bliss of heaven in his mind. And a person might be in the most peaceful environment and circumstances, but he might still be reliving some painful past memory and might be experiencing hell at the very moment. Now, this showcases the immense power which each of us has to either create heaven or create hell. But the tragedy is, most of us are creating hells in their mind unconsciously. My today's video is a humble attempt to shift the inner reality which we are constantly consumed in. Because let's understand, our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. Whether you are able to comprehend this principle or not, this is an infallible law. This is a law which cannot falter. Now, let's get into the main recipe or the main meat of the video. The S in the acronym SHIFT stands for the story you're telling. Our mind always likes to create stories. Our mind always gives different meanings and purports and stories to the different situations we have experienced. Now, let me give you a real life example to prove this point. There were two brothers who lived in extremely downtrodden conditions, and their father was a drunkard. 10 years after they were born, 20 years after they were born, they were sort of growing up in impoverished environments where they were absolutely devoid of even the basic necessities of human sustenance. And on the top of it, they had their abusive, toxic father who was a literal drunkard, and he used to beat their mothers. And both the brothers used to witness the brutality which their father sort of showcased on our mother on a day-to-day basis. 20 years later, one of those two brothers becomes an accomplished entrepreneur, accomplished businessman who generates tons of revenue, who generates billions of revenue. And the other brother is still staying in the same slum. One fine day, a journalist approaches this businessman and asks him, "Sir, your brother still lives in the slum while you have become so accomplished. What is the secret?" And this gentleman says that, "Madam, it all boiled down to the story I gave, the meaning I derived out of the circumstance. My elder brother blamed her father and the pathetic conditions of her upbringing for his failure, whereas I used those very conditions as fuel to catalyze my dreams and ambitions. My elder brother always cursed my father for his inhuman behavior, and he always said that his father is responsible for his condition and the way he is in this point of time. But I always considered my father as the greatest source of learning because my father taught me how not to be, to become the most successful failure. You get that? The most successful failure. My father was the most successful failure. He taught me what not to do in order to avoid failure. Essentially, what this story is trying to teach us is this: circumstances are never going to be the same. What is going to be different, what distinguishes a person who's going to be a victim versus a person who is a genuine hero, is the story you tell yourself. What is the story your mind is telling yourself for a particular situation makes the difference. Now, if you think about it, right, in any given day, the thoughts which we think, right, they are essentially nothing new. Most of the thoughts which we are thinking, they are just recycling of the memories which we have experienced. Most of us are in constant recirculation of the same old situations and experiences. Seldom does our thinking create something new, because we are always sort of recirculating and reliving those memories. But we can always change the story, change the narrative which we are giving ourselves towards that situation. No matter how detrimental your current reality or your current circumstances are, each one of us has the power at our disposal to change the story, to change the narrative towards a more meaningful purpose. I'm always thrilled when I hear about Viktor Frankl, the way he survived his torturous life in the Nazis' concentration camp. Viktor could have gone into absolute suppression. Instead, he sort of changed the story he told himself. He derived a meaning out of that particular situation, and he told to himself that this particular thing which has happened to me, or the situation I'm experiencing, I'm going to develop a book out of it. I'm going to write a book wherein I'm going to showcase my own experience of the importance of having meaning in life. He completely changed the story, he completely changed the narrative which he associated with that particular story. So, are you conscious of the story you are telling yourself, of the narratives you're creating in your mind? If not, it's about time that you change the narrative. Now, let's go to, before we move to the next part, there is a beautiful quote which I would like to present to you to sort of concretize this concept of shifting your story. This quote comes from Zig Ziglar. He says, "Your attitude, not your aptitude, will determine your altitude." I want to repeat that because it's beautiful and insightful at the same time. Your attitude, not your aptitude, will determine your altitude. Essentially, he's saying that the way we perceive reality, the way we sort of condition our responses, that sort of determines how high we are going to fly. It's not your aptitude, it's not your talents, it's not your skill sets, but your emotional quotient. In other words, to put it in absolute simple terms, what Zig Ziglar is trying to showcase or portray, he says EQ is more powerful than IQ. Hope this quote resonated with you, and it will allow you to sort of sing this idea of the first letter in the acronym SHIFT, which says S for storytelling. What is the story your mind is telling yourself pertaining to a certain circumstance? Now, coming to the H of the acronym SHIFT, H stands for heal. Now, it's very important to heal your old wounds so that you can move towards your new ones, so that you can craft or you can become an architect of a new future. If you are a prisoner of the past, you can never be the architect of a glorious future. Nelson Mandela, who is considered to be the epitome of peace and goodwill internationally, he went through a hell of an experience when he was confined in about a decade-long life of imprisonment. He was confined to solitary imprisonment in Robbins Island, wherein he was mercilessly tortured. He was not given ample food. But even after going through that torturous experience, the day Nelson Mandela was released from the jail, he looked at the jail and he told himself that whatever I have been through in this particular jail, I want to completely let it go. Because if I don't let it go at this moment, even though I am physically outside the jail, but I will continue to be imprisoned in the same jail, in the canopy of our mind, even though I am physically released. This is how most of us are. We sort of cling to the past, hold on to those old wounds. There's also a beautiful story of these two monks, which really resonates with me. So it so happened that the two monks were sort of traveling a particular voyage. They were going to a pilgrimage. And during their voyage, they happened to see a girl who was lying unconscious. And that girl was scantily dressed. One of the monks, on seeing this, rushes towards the girl, thinking that she needs immediate medical supervision. The other monk immediately stops him and tells him, "My dear friend, what the hell are you doing? Please stop. You will sort of compromise the sanctity, the purity of being a monk if you sort of even touch that girl." But this particular monk doesn't pay a lot of attention to this person, and he rushes towards her and takes her to the nearby medical dispensary or the nearby hospital to get her treated. And after they leave her at the hospital, these two monks leave the hospital and they just carry forward with their voyage. After an hour or two, this other monk who sort of tried to stop this monk from trying to help that girl says, "What the hell did you just do? How the hell did you compromise on the sanctity of your monkhood in trying to carry that girl and take her to that medical treatment facility?" The other monk, with a smile on his face, says, "My dear friend, I left that girl 2 hours back, but it seems that you are still carrying her even 2 hours later. So you answer yourself, who is compromising the sanctity of monkhood more?" Now, this is an alarming reminder for all of us. Most of us have a crippled understanding of monkhood, of sanctity, of morality. And we always like to stay in the past versus become an architect of the future. It gives us a sense of relief, a sense of pleasure in being associated with this victimhood identity. But Nelson Mandela is a startling real life example of what true healing is. Because if you look at his demeanor, right, if someone had gone through the kind of torturous treatment which Nelson Mandela did, if it were you and me, probably we would become someone filled with anger and resentment. But look at the personality. If you look at the personality of Nelson Mandela, you will see that he's always having a genuine smile in his face. A smile which is coming from a deep place of compassion. And if you understand that kind of torture, right, if some other person was there, if some ordinary person was there, he would be absolutely depressed and he would also become a dark character. But Nelson Mandela wasn't that. He chose to heal himself. There is a beautiful quote by one of the Rome philosophers. He says, "If you never heal from what hurt you, you will bleed on people who didn't cut you. If you never heal from what hurt you, you will bleed on people who didn't cut you." Now, this is such a beautiful quote. Now, the point is that if we are not healed from within, right, if we are not healed from all the shit which has happened with us, we are going to be like an impediment to the people we love as well. Because let's understand, only hurt people hurt others. And if you are not healing yourself, even the people who you claim that you love them, you are going to hurt them as well. So healing is a selfish as well as a selfless activity, because a person who is deeply scarred from within cannot be of anything of value. He is like a sort of a bad fish in a clean pond, right? So it's an absolute personal responsibility for each one of us to heal ourselves. And most of us are so unconscious that we don't even realize that whether I need healing or not. But we need to be authentic to ourselves and ask ourselves, what are the childhood wounds or what are the current wounds which I need to heal, so that not only I become a more happy and a fulfilled person, but also a person of service and a person of value to the people around. And also a beautiful quote which sort of concretizes this concept of healing. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls, the massive characters are seared with scars. Now this gives us a lot of hope and motivation to view all the aspects of our life which have brought us suffering as powerful ways to build ourselves. Vivekananda put it so well. He said, this world is a great gymnasium where we all come in to make ourselves stronger. So view suffering as a way to make yourself stronger. A beautiful quote which says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So hope this idea of healing resonated with you deeply. Now let's go to the I in the acronym SHIFT. I basically means identity. How do you view yourself is the number one thing which is going to determine your reality. Do you consider yourself deserving or worthy? Now when I talk about this identity, right, I'm not talking the identity which we have from a conscious prism. I'm talking the identity which we hold through our subconscious belief systems. Because oftentimes we might be thinking that I view myself as a high individual, as a high value individual, but subconsciously I might be thinking low of myself. We really need to be vigilant and absolutely aware as to what my identity is. Because understand this very simple fact and premise that your identity reflects in your beliefs, your habits, and ultimately your actions. If you don't think deep within that you are an athlete, you are never going to put in the discipline and the grit required to maintain a rigorous exercise practice. If your identity doesn't allow you to become a YouTuber, you are never going to be consistent in uploading videos. So it's all about identity. I made a beautiful video on this concept of self-image, wherein I talked about this book called Psycho-Cybernetics, which was written by a plastic surgeon. The basic premise is that people who felt that their face had actually changed for the good, their reality changed 360 degrees. And the people, despite having a successful plastic surgery, felt that they didn't look as good as the people around them thought. They were suffering the same reality. This showcases how powerful our identity can be. How you view yourself is a very powerful way of sort of shifting your current reality. And also, one thing we need to understand is we need to feel a certain level of distinction between yourself and others. Now, what do I mean by this? Most of us are so much dependent on what the world thinks about us that we seldom give attention to what we think of ourselves. And what we think of ourselves heavily depends on the opinion of what others think about us. Now, the tragedy is, no matter how high value a person you are, most of the times the people are probably not going to have good opinion on you. And when you are allowing the other people's opinion to become a part of your belief system and your self-belief, that is a catastrophic way to function. Hence, it's very important to take absolute personal responsibility to reframe our identity. What is the reality that you want, and what is the identity you want to live by? What is the identity you want to create for yourself? Start viewing yourself through that identity, and your actions and beliefs are going to be a mirror reflection of that identity. Now, it's also important to feel inside your frame, right? So when I talk about this identity shifting, oftentimes our energies are projected so much outside that we seldom pay attention to our internal feelings, our internal identity systems. If you want to understand what your identity is, look at the way you conduct yourself throughout the day. The smallest of things which you do have a direct correlation with the kind of person you think you are. If you are someone who always comes up with excuses for not exercising, deep within at a subconscious level, you think you are an unhealthy person, you are not worthy of health. Now, this might be a little difficult to comprehend, but it is proven by eminent psychologists that subconscious beliefs drive your actions. You're always going to find excuses, you're always going to find reasons to not do the thing which is not in alignment with your identity. Now, let's go to the F of the acronym SHIFT. Now, F talks about frequency. Now, whatever ideal reality we want to be in, are you already imbibing the beliefs and values required to reach that dream reality? Now, there's a lot of talk about feeling the end result, right? Feeling the dream reality, which is not reality at this very moment, but to have that feeling of that frequency, to embody that frequency or that feeling which sort of makes you feel that you are already living that dream reality. Now, to sort of unpack that and to put it in very simple terms, it means what are the beliefs and values through which you are living your life? What is the value which is the most dearest to you? What is the virtue which is the most dearest to you? It can be as simple as integrity. Now, let's say that you are a YouTuber and you commit to yourself that for the next 1 year, every day I am going to make a video. And even if you falter towards that commitment, it's still okay, but you are valuing that particular belief, that particular virtue of integrity. Now, your virtues can be anything. Your virtue can be authenticity. When you are authentic, it might be that you might trigger people around you. It might be that the people around you might not resonate with you. When you change from becoming a people pleaser to becoming a truly authentic person. Now, this in itself is sort of making you sort of embodying the frequency you want to be. Now, the easiest way to shift your frequency or to live by values and virtues is to have role models. Who are the people who you consider genuine role models? Whether you want to accomplish something huge, whether you want to shift your reality to some absolutely powerful materialistic goal, right? You want to acquire that goal. Have certain role models in your life who have already achieved that. If you want to accomplish something great in your spiritual dimension, see someone who has done something significant in the spiritual dimension. Consider them as role models. Read about them. Associate with them. Now, not everyone has the good fortune to associate with probably the great legends and successful people. But there is one way through which even a common man can associate with legends are people who are of great spiritual value through their books. Now, it's beautifully said that when you are reading a book, you are essentially establishing a connection with the person who authored that book. And having a powerful role model is instrumental in sort of creating powerful virtues and beliefs. Because it is said that you are going to be the average of 5 people you associate most of the time. Now, not everyone is blessed with intellectual company, but you can always expose yourself to the right kind of knowledge. If you consider Lord Krishna as your role model, read the Bhagavad Gita often. And once you read Bhagavad Gita often, you are essentially associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna himself. And once that is done, your reality, your beliefs, your virtues will slowly start sinking into your subconscious mind. And you will automatically start living those values and virtues. Now, the quote which sort of resonates this particular thought process of frequencies and living by the values and virtues which resonate with your dream reality is coming from Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says that if you want to change your personal reality, you need to shift your personality. Your personal reality is defined by your personality. Now, coming to the last letter of the acronym SHIFT. Now, T stands for transformation. Now, we all need to give ourselves permission to change. Oftentimes, we don't want to change. We are always sort of confined to the conditioning and the belief systems which we were which we were harboring for a very long time. And we don't want to give that up because we fear the unknown. We fear the things which don't have any kind of an image in our mind. That's the reason we resist transformation. That's the reason we resist change. Because change always sort of makes us face the unknown. Even though our current reality might be very uncomfortable, we still would like to cling to it. Reason being, it's comfortable. It's sort of giving me a sense of victimhood, and I always feel a fear of uncertainty when it comes to transformation. So it's very important to give yourself permission to transform. And as Robin Sharma beautifully says, change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous in the end. Change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous in the end. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't change. Change is inevitable. Why can't we make a conscious decision to change for the good instead of changing for the bad? Because we are going to change for the bad eventually if we are not sort of acknowledging the wrong unconscious beliefs which we are running through. And one of the beautiful quote which sort of gives a powerful perspective on the T of transformation. It says, transformation is a journey without a destination. Transformation is a journey without a destination. Now, this is a beautiful quote to ponder upon. Oftentimes, we are so much obsessed with the results that we forget to completely put ourselves in the work, in the process. Now, the tragedy is that if you are someone obsessed with changing your reality, but you are not in the moment harboring the right transformation attitude, your life is not going to work out. And when he says it's not a final destination, he says perfection can never be achieved. Growth is the only evidence of life, but there is no final destination. We are all enrolled in these growth schools, and every individual in this planet is a work in progress. If somebody says he's perfect, there can only be two possibilities. Or it can be three possibilities to make it more specific. Either he is disillusioned, number two, he is lying, number three, he is enlightened, or he is a person of divinity. Because we need to acknowledge with all humility that we all are work in progress. No matter how accomplished you are, no matter how accomplished you look to the outside world, every human person has flaws. And the people who acknowledge those flaws and constantly work on it, they are the true leaders. I hope my today's video gives you immense motivation and inspiration to shift your current state of mind and in the process shift your outer reality. Thank you so much for your time on my video. I'm sincerely grateful for your time on my video. And if you really enjoyed the content, don't forget to share the video with a couple of your friends. Also, don't forget to like the video and also subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much, and I'll meet you in the next video. Bye.